Support for Michigan Public comes from the University of Michigan's Look to Michigan campaign, working towards a stronger, more connected Michigan, championing sustainability, global citizenship, and educational opportunity. More information at looktomichigan.umich.edu.
Anything you want us to investigate for you?
Is Dogman real?
The Michigan Dogman?
Because I've heard that it's a complete hoax and people actually know the family that made it up, and then I've heard the exact opposite. So,
which is what?
That it's a real thing, and what is it? I don't know.
Have you ever been out in the Michigan woods, alone, perchance at night? Everything seems normal, but then it suddenly starts to feel spooky. What was that? Maybe that sound came from a deer? Or a raccoon? Please let it be a raccoon. Well, some Michiganders might say it was something else. Yes, the Dogman of Michigan. This is On Hand, a podcast answering your questions about all the things that make Michigan unique and some of the things that make it go bump in the night. I'm April Baer. Today, is the Dogman of Michigan real? Walking us through our cryptid adventure is our very own in-house fan of the mythical and strange, producer Mike Blank. Hi, Mike.
Hello, April. Or should I say, hello?
Ow, ow, ow! Okay, so Matt Menchaca of Blissfield wanted to know if the Dogman of Michigan is real. Before we head out into the wilderness to track him down, can you tell us about the history of the Dogman? Where does this even come from?
All right, so in brief, Dogman first reported in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan. And if you're like, where is Wexford County? Well, it's a mostly rural area about 60 miles east of Manistee. The biggest town in that county is Cadillac. And a lot of the county is still part of the Manistee National Forest. So it's really kind of like wilderness out there.
Yeah, no kidding. So for people who say they've seen this Dogman, what does he look like?
Almost exactly as it sounds. Half man, half dog. We're talking very tall, at least according to the reports, very tall, like Bigfoot, but not Bigfoot. Okay, so Dogman has claw-like arms or appendages and is seen to be on its two hind legs a lot, at least according to the reports that we found.
Oh.
Yeah, well, for more details, we spoke with Rachel Clark of the Archives of Michigan. She loves this type of story, and here's what she told us about the history of these Dogman sightings across Michigan.
Some of the original encounters are a lot of logging camps that see him, or her. I guess we assume it's a man. So that's 1887 in Wexford County. So the early reports are usually of men working in the woods who encounter this beast during their time there. And then over the years, it's a lot of times people who are, again, alone, either on an isolated road or in the woods. And their encounters are very similar, though. They do talk about this beast coming out of the woods and that it is very agile. It jumps in front of their car or in front of them. It scratches at their houses or their tents. So the encounters, as described, are very, very similar in that way. There have been reports, as any good story goes, people have been scared to death by the sightings of the Dogman. So there have been quite a few of those, especially earlier on. And then the more recent encounters are just people who are afraid and also very confused at what they think they're seeing. There have been, especially in recent times, reports and actual descriptions of the encounters and quote-unquote proof of the encounter. So there are photographs. I just heard a OnStar phone call from somebody. Apparently, it was totally fake, but reporting to OnStar that Dogman ran in front of his car and he flipped his car.
Connecting to OnStar.
Yeah, I'm in a ditch right now. I just saw the craziest thing. This giant. You're not gonna believe it. It's like a dog, but it was a man, and it was like giant. I don't know. It wasn't a Bigfoot. It looked like a dog or a man, dog man or something. I don't know.
So those not such great ideas of putting together, fake phone calls like that. But those are the types of evidence that people are putting forth. And then there is one film that came out called the Gable film. It looks like it's filmed on like 9mm film, and it looks like the 70s because of the vehicles, and there are people who look like they're on vacation and they're snowmobiling. And there's I think it's a young boy who has the camera when he's in his car, and he's panning across the scenery in the car, and he captures this thing in the woods that they're driving by. So the Gable film for a little bit was supposed to be the evidence of Dogman's existence in northern Michigan, and then it came out to be completely fake. The people who created it admitted that they faked it. It's a really good fake. They did it. They put a lot of effort into it. Dogman appears in popular culture in the 80s. Steve Cook, who was a Traverse City disc jockey, wrote a song about the legend of Dogman.
A cool summer morning in early June is when the legend began. At a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran.
So he sort of outlined this story in the song he put together, and then he played it on air. And he is also purportedly behind that Gable film. So he just sort of did it as a thing to do. He put the song together, he put it out there, but then people were reporting that they actually were seeing things. So that's the earliest sort of pop culture reference that we can find in terms of the Dogman. And even if you look online, people report what they think they see in the woods of Michigan as something they cannot identify, therefore, maybe it was Dogman because it was a beast and it was very large. I think that, for my opinion, part of it is that Michigan, there are just these huge tracts of land that are woods and open, and there are all sorts of things that live in it. And when people are hunting or fishing or camping and they see something, they could see all sorts of things that they can't explain. And if you get enough people who claim to encounter something, then these myths and legends perpetuate. But, for a long time, there were stories of large cats in Michigan that were sort of dismissed, and now we've got cougar sightings. I'm not saying there's a Dogman out there that's going to show up. However, who knows what's living in the forests of Michigan?
So there you go. It's also worth noting that the legend says Dogman, particularly here in Michigan, only appears in years that end in 7. But honestly, people report these sightings in years that don't end in 7 as well.
You're a lifelong Michigander. Have you ever had a Dogman sighting? Has this ever happened to you?
Not personally, but I have been out in the woods where things seem normal and everything's kind of, you're not noticing everything, but then things get kind of quieter and you start to feel that feeling in your stomach, in the pit of the stomach. I've experienced that. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a coyote out there watching me, maybe some other animal, or maybe I was just, pumping myself up in the head to be afraid. But I felt something that didn't feel right.
I mean, the woods, they got their own thing going on, that's for sure.
Especially at night where you can't see, 10, 20 feet in front of you. It can get intense real quick.
So when we come back, we'll talk to the guy who wants to hear all of your Dogman of Michigan stories and ask him if he thinks the Dogman is real. Stay with us.
Support from Michigan Public's On Hand podcast comes from Lake Trust Credit Union, working to empower financial well-being for Michigan consumers, businesses, and communities. Committed to financial solutions and advice to support people and families. More information at laketrust.org.
So what happens if you think you've seen the Dogman? Where do you even report such a thing, right? The State Department of Natural Resources is not here to log your unexplainable phenomenon. So maybe you would turn to Dogman Encounters Radio.
You just know that there is something definitely not right with this situation. And I was just absolutely, totally frozen with fear.
So I was praying to God, and I was terrified. And I sat under the covers for a couple minutes, shaking, terrified, praying.
And it was just so scary. It was, in hindsight, I don't know how I managed not to, faint or run away or scream.
This is a podcast hosted by Vic Cundiff, and his podcast has more than 600 episodes chronicling tales of sightings and first-hand encounters with the Dogman.
When it was screaming at me, I was so close that I was getting spit on my face from this creature's mouth.
It started to turn its head, and it looked at me. And I know that you said that you shouldn't, and I've heard other people say that you shouldn't, but I couldn't help it. I looked full in its eyes. I wish that I hadn't. I wish I'd never seen it. I wish I could erase the picture of what I saw from my mind, but I can't.
I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of what is in the dark.
We asked Vic to come talk about some of what he's heard over hundreds of stories like these. So when did you first start hearing stories about Dogman?
Well, in 2007 and 2008, I was a co-host on a Sasquatch-specific podcast, and when I was doing that, there were two regulars who are very experienced Sasquatch investigators who used to come on the show all the time. Well, they came on the show, and they were telling us how the previous weekend they had gone out on an outing with several other investigators, and one of the people in their group had seen what they called a dog-faced booger. Now, booger is an appellation for Sasquatch when you're talking with people from the South.
Boogers and haints, yeah.
That's right, boogers and haints.
Yeah.
But when they said a dog-faced booger, I'm thinking, okay, what are they talking about? So after the show, I asked one of them for clarity, and that's when I found out they were talking about a dogman. I thought, wow, saw a dogman. So I just wanted to find out more about dogmen, and naturally, it didn't take long before I realized, okay, if you have a bad Sasquatch encounter that traumatizes you, you can almost go to your local grocery store and get help. But if you see one of these dogmen things, where do you go for help? I thought, you know what? There's a real need here. Well, fast forward some years later, 2014, I brought dogmanencounters.com online. And before I knew it, I had people from all over contacting me to tell me about their encounters with dogmen.
Wow.
So about a year after that, that's when I started airing the first episodes of Dogman Encounters Radio. I haven't looked back since. I mean, it's been a wild ride for some time now. I don't even bat an eye if I have 3-4 brand new Dogman eyewitnesses contact me in one day to tell me about their Dogman encounters. And some days I've had as many as 7 or 8 brand new Dogman eyewitnesses I've never heard from before contact me.
Was there something about Dogman encounters that, this as opposed to other kind of cryptids, that really made you want to dig in further?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, truth be told, I have 2 Dogman podcasts and 2 Sasquatch podcasts. But yeah, I'm definitely a Dogman guy. What drew me to the whole Sasquatch phenomenon has been multiplied by a factor of 10 plus when it comes to Dogmen. They're creepier, they're more frightening, they're more interesting in my opinion. The eyewitnesses you speak with about their encounters, they're moved a lot more by their experiences in almost every case than Sasquatch eyewitnesses, and understandably so. So yeah, I'm a Dogman guy through and through. But yeah, I find the whole Dogman phenomenon a lot more interesting. You can kind of, in a way, explain the existence of Sasquatch through the fossil record. I mean, everyone who's even remotely into this knows about the Gigantopithecus theory, how people think that there's a good chance that Sasquatch are just Gigantopithecus blackie. But as far as dogmen go, you just can't really explain their existence through the fossil record. Nothing has been found that would possibly explain them being here. So, yeah, it's just a much more interesting topic in my opinion.
Vic, do you feel like you get consistent accounts of what the Michigan Dogman is like, or, like what the character of it is in terms of its behavior, being hostile toward humans, not being hostile toward humans, the kind of things people are likely to see a dogman doing?
Well, it's a mix. It's a mix when you're talking about their behavior. It's a mix, especially when you talk about their appearance. I mean, their appearance can vary widely. It really can. And as far as their behavior goes, yeah, most of the time when people have encounters with these guys, it seems like they do push the issue. The dogmen do push the issue to try to mortify the eyewitness to within an inch of their life. But that's not always how it is. As you know, sometimes people have encounters where the dogman sees them, they see the dogman, and they both go their separate ways.
Mm-hmm. Are these necessarily like forest encounters?
Not always. No, some people, they encounter them on their back deck, well within the city limits. It's hard to explain. It really is. But yeah, you don't have to be in the forest to have a dogman encounter. That's one of the many things about these guys. It's so hard to wrap your head around. It really is. I mean, these guys, they've been seen well within the city limits of major metropolitan areas. How does Dallas strike you? Cincinnati, Boston, other places too, Chicago. Yeah, they've been seen in a lot of places you'd never expect to see them.
Yeah. Is Dogman a werewolf? Is that what we're actually talking about?
Well, it's possible these guys are werewolves, but it's a lot more likely that they look the way they do 24/7, 365 than what we're dealing with are just people who somehow magically have the ability to transform into the form of a beast. So I don't think we're talking about werewolves.
Mm-hmm. Here in Michigan, I mean, we of course refer to a dogman as a Michigan dogman. But what share of the submissions that you get for the podcasts, what percentage of them come from Michigan, do you think? I understand that this may be an issue of reportage and not actual sightings, but I'm just curious.
Very few come in from Michigan anymore, but there's so much awareness of these guys now. That's pretty much what I would expect. You started hearing about dogmen in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in the Minnesota area because it was kind of a regional thing back there where in that region of the country there is much more awareness than other places. But now, thanks to the internet and our ability to communicate, the fact it's so much more efficient, everyone knows about these guys all over. So I would expect to hear about them from all over the country almost equally.
Man, you're kind of bursting my bubble here, Vic.
Well, just telling you the truth, that's how it is. It's kind of trended away from most of the encounters coming from your area. So right now, as far as hotspots go, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, some parts of southern Ohio. Seems like that region right there is the hottest area right now. But that is subject to change.
I have a question that I want to ask you. And before I do, I just want to say that I myself have had what I consider a supernatural experience. I am not a non-believer in all the things that science has not cataloged yet. But also, we do live in an age where it's almost hard for any aspect of life not to be caught on camera. You know, all of a sudden, people have the equivalent of, a movie camera in their pockets all the time. Do you have any explanation for the lack of visual evidence of Dogman by comparison to this huge volume of archival oral histories that we have of people having seen one?
It's funny you ask that because the whole evidence question is brought up all the time. And some people try to use that to explain away their existence, to make it seem like, okay, well, if they were real, if they were extant, we would have a lot of evidence to prove it. Well, there is a lot of evidence out there. I've seen evidence that would blow you away. By far and away, the most impressive evidence I've ever seen was shared with me probably 9-10 years ago by an eyewitness who he lived in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains back then. And either he or a friend of his somehow found out that there was a dogman or dogmen plural hanging out in this particular area in the wilderness there. Well, they took this game cam, strapped it to a tree trunk, and then hung some bait about 5 feet away from the lens. Well, he sent this footage to me via a private YouTube video that he shared with me, where you can clearly see in broad daylight, this was taken in the middle of the afternoon, not a cloud in the sky, beautiful sunny day. You could see from left to right this subject move into the view of the camera lens, and at first you see its right shoulder and its right side and everything, and a little bit of its front, and then it came between the camera lens and the bait. Well, it was so close to the camera lens, it's nice and bright out, I was able to actually pick out individual hairs in its coat. So yeah, I saw its face, I saw everything but from the waist down. And this was no fake video. This was a real thing. If you gave someone $200 million to fake this, I just don't see how they could have. I really don't.
Even though Vic says he was sent this convincing video, a private link, it was taken down from YouTube, and he says he hasn't seen it since. So what we're left with are the many stories Vic hears on his podcast. When one listens to Dogman Encounters Radio, you'll hear some truly terrifying tales, which is expected due to the topic. However, what one might not suspect is hearing guests thank Vic for giving them a place to share their story. Some of these encounters scarred people for decades. And whatever your opinion on encounters with the unknown is, these people were traumatized by their experiences, whatever they were. Perhaps by telling their own story, others can gain some healing.
That if I talked to you about it and told you about it, that it would help me some more, and maybe by me talking about my encounter, maybe possibly that if I tell what I went through, that it could be a help to somebody else.
As I told you when we talked the other day, I've never told anybody about any of this before, and it lifted such a burden off of my shoulders to finally be able to talk to someone about this. I've been holding on to this for 17 years, and to finally be able to tell somebody, it was, I just feel better all day, every day. It feels great. So thank you so much for that and everything you've done for everybody else as well.
Especially when I went through it and there was no internet, no nothing. But even with the internet, it's just hard to find people like you that you can talk to about this. And, I'm glad you do have your show, and if anything, to warn people and to give people like me a place to talk about our experiences to where we don't feel like we're so alone anymore.
According to Vic, that's exactly why he does what he does.
My main thing is not trying to prove their existence. My main thing, the reason why I do what I do, is to help the Dogman eyewitnesses who need the help because of a traumatic encounter, or as it sometimes goes, traumatic encounters plural. I just focus on trying to help them come to terms with their experiences with these guys. Some people think, and when they describe what I do, they say, well, yeah, Vic hosts Dogman Encounters Radio. Well, that's true. That's what I do. That's one of the things I do. But the main thing that I focus on, the main thing I do is actually just trying to help traumatized Dogman eyewitnesses. Oh, yeah, I happen to host and produce Dogman Encounters Radio as well. I don't concern myself, like I said, with trying to prove their existence, going into the woods to investigate them. I do spend a good amount of time in the woods, but when I'm out there, I'm not trying to find them or gather evidence to prove their existence. Not at all.
My guest today has been Vic Cundiff. You can listen to Dogman Encounters any place you get your podcasts. Vic, thank you so much for talking to us a little bit about your work. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a great time. Thanks for having me.
So the next time when you're in the Michigan wilderness and a strange sound makes your stomach drop, be ready. By which I mean, get ready to take a picture and then to run. Thanks so much going out to Matt Menchaca of Blissfield for that excellent, always fun question. What's your question about Michigan? This podcast is here to get answers to all the things that you want to know, creepy or not, about our state. Send us a question, and we may just investigate it on a future episode of On Hand. You can drop us an email or email a voice memo to this address, onhand@michiganpublic.org. Today's episode was produced by Mike Blank, whose vocal stylings you heard imagining the emergency call about Dogman. Other producers are Ronia Kavansug, April Van Buren, and Michelle Jokish-Polo. Our senior producer is Mercedes Mejia. The executive producer is Laura Weber-Davis. Digital services by Jody Westrick. Music came from Blue Dot Sessions, also from Audio Network and Battle of the Bits. Coming to you from the land of Ope and Screams. I'm April Baer. Thanks for listening. Bye.